Hi everyone, it's Moshthany Riftano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Havoc album, Conformicide. Havoc is a Denver metal outfit. This is their latest album, I believe their fourth full-length record. I caught on to them back in 2011, a time when you couldn't spit without hitting a band that was trying to revive thrash metal. And since this time, you could actually count the number of groups that came out of that era that were actually good, actually worth listening to on one hand. And I would actually count Havok as one of those groups. Their album Time's Up was one of my favorites of that year, and despite the record being pretty unoriginal from a thrash metal perspective, the writing and the performances were really good, and the album could at least serve as a reminder of what makes thrash metal so great in the first place. Now, I was let down but not really surprised with the band's next LP, Unnatural Selection, because they were treading water so hard on this album. It was like just a complete refusal to experiment or try anything new. I get that the band's shtick is mostly about carrying a torch for the past, but that's no excuse for not trying anything new, not attempting to separate yourselves from the artists that obviously influence you. Especially Megadeth. Havok seem to be big Megadeth fans. Conformicide, though, is Havok finally delivering some of that maturity and some of that ambition that their last record was lacking. They're trying so many things on this album. I'm so happy about that. And what made the band so appealing and so entertaining in the first place, all of that seems like it's turned up to 11 in some regards. Like, the vocals on this album are insane. They're just so intense. They're not the usual talking, growling, I listen to a lot of Dave Mustaine. There's a lot of shrieks, like almost falsetto height shrieks on this thing. Reminds me quite a bit of Vector in a way. And of course, some of the growls, some of the talking, some of the narrating is there. It's really campy. It's really cheesy, just like I like it. Also, I find some of the guitar solos on here to be more colorful. The mixing on this thing is better. The bass has way more presence. Not only that, but there is a lot of slap bass on this record on numerous tracks, and it adds so much character to what the band is doing. It's not often you hear a lot of slap bass in your thrash. And there's more interesting song structures on this thing too. The band has written a longer record here, and they have padded some of these songs out with epic intros and cool instrumental bridges. The tracks are definitely multifaceted, multi-phased, but they don't get bogged down in just a bunch of, progressive technical BS that isn't that interesting. Because pretty much every track here circles around to a good, solid chorus, sometimes including some gang vocals where you got everybody layered on top of each other, everybody shouting, ah! If there's one hit I think you can make on the production, it's the sound of the drums on this thing. They have that really flat, plastic, generic, like modern metal band tone to them that is not that interesting to me. I would have much rather listened to drums that just have a bit of a more natural tone. Even if they didn't sound perfect, they would have certainly had more character and flavor. Now, the lyrics, though, on this album, I like them, but I could see them turning a lot of people off. To make the case for the lyrics on this album, Havok took the typically apocalyptic depiction of the modern world and just kind of updated it for 2017. The war, the death, the famine, the genocide. Of course, those things show up on this record, but they're also singing about the media, which seems like a pretty hot button topic in this age of fake news. We have politicians and corporations as a threat to democracy, and there's even a nod to George Orwell on this thing, on the track INGSOC. And the entire album kicks off with a flip of the bird to political correctness on the song f.p.c. In the grander scheme of things, these are probably not entirely new topics in the world of thrash metal, but at least what Havok is doing here seems like a little updated. It seems like a little new. It seems reflective of the decade that they're recording this album in. What I sort of worry about is people either openly rejecting or just embracing this album based simply on the lyrics. Just casting the band off as some group that's saying some kind of bullshit, conspiratorial, ultra-libertarian, InfoWars, red pill type shit. Or seeing them miraculously appeal to a bunch of people who just spam Pepes everywhere and want to make America great again. Shut up. And I just pray that some music writer doesn't write some overzealous article where they label them as alt-right or something stupid like that. But for everybody who falls outside of all that BS, there are moments on here like the proclamation of the United States of America! Or on the song Dogmaniacal, where the band is singing about somebody who's not really moral, but just merely following the rules written in their holy book, where it's like, you know, the observations they're making, they're a little corny. And again, this is something that I expect with this style of metal. This to me is stuff that comes with the territory. I kind of like it. I like the bluntness. And I think that Havok are a band that's very self-aware, but not self-conscious. And that's the thing. In thrash metal, it's all about just being straightforward, saying your piece, and not being self-conscious. Two things, you know, thrash metal and self-consciousness, it's like oil and water. For me, this record is really about the first half of the album. The song topics are sharp and focused. They're straightforward. They're in your face. The slap bass sounds great. The new ideas sound great. The mix sounds fantastic. The songs are multifaceted, as I said earlier, just have a lot of phases, a lot of sections to them. They're dynamic. They're kind of progressive. On the song Untitled Deceive, I do want to bring this up. I don't know if this was intentional, but this is the track where they're kind of making fun of the media. And at the very start of the song, the band opens up with this really generic, bad, stock, like, piece of, like, ooh, newscaster music that is the same exact music that Keemstar uses to start off his videos. If they did that on purpose, that would be amazing. But the thing is, this is Havok's longest record, almost an hour long, and I don't think the band brings enough new ideas and takes enough risks to justify that length, because we do have tracks like Master Plan, Claiming Uncertainty 2, tracks that are lyrically general, way more general than the songs that the band was hitting us with at the start of the record. The vocals are not as varied on this track, the various guitar passages not as dynamic. And the song Wake Up is maybe the most basic and formulaic on the entire album. This riff that the band repeats over and over and over again features this annoying whammy, which really should have been some seasoning, not the main course of the song. The 7-minute closer is certainly structurally ambitious, but from what the band is doing from a lyrical standpoint, instrumental standpoint, it's not really all that refreshing either. You know, I do like this album. I think Havok has put together some of their best material in a couple years on this record, and I think the first half of this album is electrifying. It's just that when we get to that middle point, it just starts to trail off a little bit. Not that the band does anything that sounds overtly awful, but you know, they kind of just go back to these old patterns, they fall into their old ways, and they stop innovating, they stop progressing, they stop trying new things. And they just kind of start delivering thrash by the numbers again, which is what was my main problem with their last record. Still though, I do think this album is an improvement on that, at least. I am feeling a light to decent 7 on this thing. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best. You're the best. What should I review next? Hit that like if you like. Please subscribe. And please don't die. Just, you know, keep watching the videos. Links next to my head. Other videos you should check out. Subscribe to the channel. Official website too. Forever.